I knew our online relationship could never work, said so from the start, and still let it happen. Now he says we're engaged, wants me to fly across the world to stop his arranged marriage, and I don't know how to get out without blowing up both our lives. I really need advice because I feel like I'm trapped inside a relationship that was never meant to survive in the real world, and yet I can't seem to let go of it. I don't know if I'm holding on because I love him, because I'm afraid of being alone, or because he has become such a constant in my life that the idea of losing him feels like losing a part of myself. For context, my boyfriend and I are both 27. We met 6 years ago through an online game. At the time, neither of us was looking for anything romantic. We were just two people who enjoyed the same game and ended up becoming friends. Over time, we started talking more and more, playing together almost daily, sharing jokes, frustrations, and pieces of our lives. It felt natural and easy. There was no pressure, no expectations, just companionship. Very slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening. Our friendship began to shift into something more emotionally intimate. We relied on each other for comfort. He became someone I talked to every day. But even then, I never truly believed it could turn into a real relationship. In my mind, it always existed in a kind of emotional gray area. I cared deeply about him. I love him as a person. But this is my first real relationship, and I don't have a clear understanding of what romantic love is supposed to feel like. Sometimes I wonder if what I feel is love, or if it's simply deep attachment built over years of shared time, routine, and emotional reliance. That uncertainty haunts me. I've always struggled with intimacy and trust, not just romantically, but in every aspect of my life. I don't hug my siblings often. I keep my emotions guarded. I rarely share personal details, even with people I've known for years. I don't talk openly about my family, my job, or my past. I've always felt safer keeping parts of myself hidden. Online, I'm slightly more open emotionally, but I still restrict identifying details. I don't like feeling seen in a way I can't control. My boyfriend knows this about me and says he understands, but I often feel guilty for not being able to give more of myself. When he confessed his feelings for me about a year ago, I was honest with him. I told him I didn't think we could ever realistically be more than friends. I told him the distance, the cultural differences, and my own emotional limitations made a future together impossible. Even saying that hurt because I knew how much courage it took for him to confess. Despite that, we somehow ended up together anyway. It felt less like a conscious decision and more like drifting into something neither of us wanted to fully acknowledge the consequences of. Looking back, I realized the foundation was fragile from the start. We had a history of major arguments even before dating, often over misunderstandings, emotional reactions, or immaturity on both sides. Sometimes those arguments would linger for days. Outside of the game, our differences feel even more overwhelming. He lives in Egypt. I live in the United States. The distance alone feels crushing. We exist in two completely different realities, time zones, and daily lives. But even more than that, our cultures clash in ways I don't know how to reconcile. He is Muslim and holds traditional beliefs about gender roles, family structure, and how women should behave. I've always been fiercely independent. I value autonomy, choice, and self-expression. I'm stubborn, opinionated, and deeply uncomfortable with the idea of fitting into a rigid role for someone else's expectations. Marriage and children are another massive point of conflict. Ideally, I would like to get married someday, and maybe have children, but the idea also terrifies me. A lot of that fear comes from childhood trauma I haven't fully healed from. My boyfriend, on the other hand, openly says he wants 10 children. He's serious. I've told him clearly that I could never give him that. Every time it comes up, it feels like proof that we're imagining two entirely different futures. There's also the language barrier. While he speaks English, I don't speak Arabic at all. The idea of moving to a country where I can't communicate with his family or community terrifies me. I would be isolated, dependent, and unable to fully express myself. I don't see a realistic path where I could feel safe or equal in that environment. And then there's the part one feel ashamed admitting. I don't like the idea of telling people how we met. Saying we met in an online game and dated long distance across countries makes me feel embarrassed. I know it shouldn't matter, but it does. My friends, and especially my family, would judge me. They already struggle to understand my boundaries and independence, and I know this would confirm every fear they have. I'm not strong enough yet to completely ignore that judgment, even though I wish I were. Despite everything, he's been kind to me.
He listens to me.
He supports me emotionally. He knows parts of me very few people do. In a world where I rarely let anyone close, he feels familiar and safe. That's what makes this so painful. I feel torn between logic and emotion. My head tells me this relationship cannot realistically work long-term. My heart tells me that leaving would mean losing someone who has been a constant presence in my life for years. We discussed all of this at length when he first confessed his feelings for me. I didn't hide my doubts or pretend I felt confident about a future together. I told him very plainly that I didn't think I could ever make him truly happy, and that the reality of our differences wasn't something I could just ignore. I tried to explain that caring about someone doesn't automatically make a relationship healthy or sustainable.
He didn't see it that way.
He told me those things were just details, and that because we loved and cared about each other, everything else could be figured out later. He spoke with so much certainty that it made me doubt my own instincts. I was exhausted from repeating the same points over and over, trying to explain why those details felt enormous and immovable to me. And I did, and still do, care deeply about him. Eventually, I stopped arguing, not because I was convinced, but because I was tired. Almost immediately, he began calling me his girlfriend. He told people in his life about me right away. I remember feeling a knot form in my stomach when he said that. I asked him not to, trying to explain that I wasn't ready for that level of exposure or commitment. He took it personally and asked if I was ashamed of him. That hurt, because I'm not ashamed of him as a person at all. What I'm ashamed of is the situation, the circumstances, the distance, the knowledge that this relationship feels fundamentally doomed no matter how much affection exists between us. As time went on, he started talking about marriage. Sometimes it was framed as a joke, sometimes very seriously. Each time, it sent me into a spiral. On more than one occasion, I broke down crying on the phone with him, overwhelmed by the pressure and fear of where this was heading. I told him again and again that being together like this felt wrong, that it was setting us both up for pain later. I told him our lifestyles, our cultural beliefs, and our expectations for the future were too different to bridge. I even told him, through tears, that I thought he should find someone in his real, physical life. Someone who shared his culture, his religion, and his desire to have children soon. He talks often about wanting many kids and wanting to be young enough to run around with them, to enjoy fatherhood fully before age slows him down. I know I can't give him that life, and saying it out loud felt like the most honest thing I could do for him. Every time I said these things, he was understandably hurt. He saw it as rejection. He became upset, withdrawn, and sometimes stopped talking to me altogether or responded with short, distant messages. Those moments were excruciating for me. I hate conflict, and the idea of losing him, even as a friend, terrifies me. After some time passed and his emotions settled, he would come back and tell me that I didn't get to decide what was good or bad for his life. He would say that he loves me, and that should be enough, that we're supposed to stay together and figure the rest out later. But that mindset scares me. Later feels like a cliff we're both walking toward with our eyes closed. I don't want to wake up years from now having wasted his time, or trap myself in a situation where I feel isolated, pressured, or fundamentally misunderstood. At the same time, every attempt to pull away feels like I'm ripping something out of myself. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to lose him. And yet, staying feels like slowly betraying both of us. Now things have escalated even further, and it's reached a point where I no longer feel confused so much as deeply alarmed. He has been pushing harder and harder for me to visit him. Not casually suggesting it, but pressing the issue repeatedly, as if it's something that simply needs to happen, and my hesitation is an inconvenience rather than a serious concern. I've told him many times that I am broke. I live paycheck to paycheck. I can't afford to take time off work, let alone buy an international plane ticket to Egypt and cover expenses once I'm there. Every part of that is unrealistic for me. He insists it doesn't matter because he would pay for everything. That doesn't make me feel relieved. It makes me more uncomfortable. I know he struggles financially as well. He has told me this himself. The idea of letting someone pay for such an enormous trip feels wrong to me on multiple levels. I don't like relying on people, and I especially don't like owing people. I don't want to be in a position where I feel indebted, trapped, or pressured because someone spent a large amount of money on me. That imbalance alone scares me. Beyond that, there is a much deeper issue I can't ignore anymore. I don't truly know this man. Not in the ways that matter. Yes, we've talked on and off for 6 years. Yes, we've shared thoughts, feelings, and pieces of our lives online. But he is still, in many ways, a stranger. We have never met in person. I have never seen how he behaves day to day, how he treats people when he's angry, stressed, disappointed, or challenged in real life. The idea of boarding a plane by myself, traveling across the world to a country I've never been to meet a man I've never physically met, feels absolutely insane to me. I don't mean that dramatically. I mean it literally. There are so many stories of women disappearing while traveling alone. Women who trusted the wrong person. Women who thought they knew someone because they had talked online for years. I know that may sound paranoid to some people, but that fear is very real to me. I would be putting myself at an extreme level of risk, and every instinct in my body is screaming at me not to do it. Then came the conversation that changed everything. He told me that this July, his family is planning to arrange a marriage for him. He said it almost casually, like it was just another problem for us to solve together. Then he followed it up by saying that he couldn't get married because we are already engaged, and that I should come to Egypt to stop it. I felt my stomach drop. We are not engaged. Not even close. He has never proposed to me. I have never agreed to marry him. We have never made any kind of formal commitment like that. Hearing him say this so confidently, as if it were a shared reality, terrified me. I confronted him immediately and told him that wasn't true, that he couldn't just decide something like that and present it as fact. Instead of taking me seriously, he teased me. He brushed it off. He said, jokingly, that it wasn't my decision and that I can't decide things for him. But it didn't feel like a joke to me at all. It felt like a line being crossed. Looking back now, I can see that I let things go far too far. I should have held my ground earlier. I should have ended things before they ever turned into this, even if it meant losing him as a friend. I didn't intend to lead him on, but intentions don't erase outcomes. Whether I meant to or not, this situation has grown into something unhealthy, unbalanced, and frightening. What scares me even more is that I now feel trapped. We've shared personal details about our lives, things I wouldn't normally tell anyone online. While I don't think he would use them against me, I'm painfully aware that he could. He could expose private information. He could reach out to people in my life. The power imbalance feels very real now, even if he hasn't explicitly threatened anything. Every time I try to have a calm, logical conversation about why this won't work, why our differences matter, why distance matters, why safety matters, he shuts it down by saying he doesn't care. He frames it as love, but it doesn't feel like love to me. It feels like dismissal. Like my fears, boundaries, and reality don't count as long as he wants the relationship to continue. That's when it hit me that I don't know how to make him understand. I don't think he wants to understand. And because of that, I'm starting to feel like cutting all contact may be the only way out. The thought of that makes me sick to my stomach. It feels extreme. It feels cruel. It feels like the nuclear option. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to disappear from his life without explanation. I don't want to lose the friendship that existed before all of this became so complicated and heavy. But I also don't know how to stay friends when he refuses to let go of the idea of a future together. I don't know how to gently step back when every attempt to do so is met with resistance, guilt, or emotional pressure. I feel like I'm being pulled forward into something I never agreed to, something that scares me more the closer it gets. I feel anxious all the time now. I feel guilty. I feel afraid. And I feel responsible for managing his emotions in a way that is starting to feel unfair and unsafe. I don't know how to stop this without detonating everything. I don't know how to protect myself without becoming the villain in his story. All I know is that this can't continue the way it is. I desperately need advice on how to end the idea of a future with him, firmly, clearly, and safely, without escalating the situation further. If staying friends is even possible, I don't know how to get there. And if it isn't, I don't know how to let go without fear. I feel completely stuck, and I don't know what the right next step is anymore.